Ladies and gentlemen, gather round as we take a fascinating journey into the world of nature's most impressive magic tricks, the awe-inspiring ability of certain creatures to regrow their lost limbs. Imagine, if you will, a world where losing an arm is just a minor inconvenience. In this world, creatures like the axolotl, the salamander's cooler, water-dwelling cousin, reign supreme. Picture this. An axolotl, in its zen-like state, loses a limb. Does it panic? Oh no. Within 24 hours, it's already covering the wound with a fresh layer of skin cells, like a homeowner quickly patching up a roof before the rain hits. These epidermal cells hustle over to the wound, forming a temporary barrier faster than you can say regeneration. Now, the real show starts. Within 1 to 2 weeks, something magical happens beneath that new epidermis. A blastoma forms. Think of it as a miniature construction site, where the workers are de-differentiated cells from muscle, cartilage, and nerves, all ready to build a brand new limb. These cells, now in a more primitive state, gather together, usually around 1–2 millimeters in diameter, to start the heavy lifting. These construction cells, including fibroblasts and muscle cells, revert to their early flexible forms, kind of like when you see a retired athlete back in the gym, ready to train again. And boy, do they proliferate, doubling their numbers every 24–36 hours. They're like a small-town bakery the day before a big festival, non-stop activity, guided by the wise molecular signals of FGF, fibroblast growth factors, BMP, bone morphogenetic proteins, and the all-knowing WNT proteins. The cells in the blastoma start to differentiate. It's like watching a master sculptor at work. The raw materials slowly take shape into bones, muscles, nerves, and skin. From stub to limb, the whole process takes about 40–60 days, depending on how elaborate the axolotl's lost limb was. The magic doesn't stop there. The axolotl's nerves release special growth factors, including neuregulin-1, that encourage the blastoma cells to keep proliferating like it's happy hour. The NAG, Newt anterior gradient protein, steps in as the project manager, ensuring everything runs smoothly, while the FGF family keeps the cells dividing and differentiating like a well-oiled machine. Let's start with the piece de résistance, autotomy. When danger rears its ugly head, these lizards have a trick up their sleeve. They can drop their tails like a mic after a killer joke. It's a bit like leaving your jacket behind. To escape a bear, you might lose a little, but you save the essentials. This trick, while nifty, comes at a cost. It's energetically expensive, leading to a temporary dip in growth and reproductive mojo. But hey, better a lost tail than a lost life, right? Now, post-tail drop, it's time for the real magic to begin. Within hours to days, the wound is sealed tighter than a drum. Epidermal cells hustle over to cover the wound, playing bouncer to any unwanted infections. It's like watching a crew of tiny construction workers patch up a hole in record time. Fast forward 1 to 2 weeks, and we see the formation of a blastoma at the site of the tail loss. Picture a flash mob of de-differentiated cells. These are cells that have reverted to a more primitive state, ready to take on any role needed. This cellular assembly includes recruits from the spinal cord, muscle, and cartilage, all eager to contribute to the grand rebuilding project. With the blastoma in place, the real show begins. Guided by the molecular maestros, FGF, WNT, and BMP proteins, these cells start differentiating and growing. Imagine a conductor leading an orchestra, each molecule ensuring every cell knows its part. The new tail, while not a perfect replica, features a cartilage tube instead of the original vertebrae, along with new muscles, blood vessels, and nerves. It's like getting a replacement part from a different manufacturer. It works, but it's just a tad different. From start to finish, the whole regeneration gig takes about 60–90 days. The new tail might be shorter and less complex, but it's fully functional. It's like trading in your luxury sedan for a reliable hatchback. It gets the job done without the frills. Let's not forget the unsung heroes of this process. The Wnt signaling pathway, FGF, fibroblast growth factors, and BMP, bone morphogenetic proteins, are the backstage crew, ensuring everything runs smoothly. The WNT pathway regulates cell proliferation and differentiation. The FGF family is essential for blastoma formation and outgrowth, and BMP helps differentiate those cells into the right tissues. They're like the roadies at a rock concert. You might not see them, but without them, the show wouldn't go on. So next time you think your life's tough, just remember these lizards and their incredible regenerative abilities. They're the true masters of bouncing back, showing us that sometimes losing something is just the first step to something new and amazing. Let's set the stage. When a starfish loses an arm, it doesn't panic. Instead, it covers the wound with a fresh layer of epidermis within a few days. Imagine a well-trained emergency response team that shows up faster than you can say lost limb. These epidermal cells rush to the site, forming a protective layer like laying down a quick tarp to keep the rain out. Now the real magic begins. Quilomocytes, the starfish's immune cells, along with other cells, migrate to the injury site. It's like a cellular flash mob, gathering for a spectacular performance. These cells de-differentiate into a more primitive state, ready to take on any role needed. They're like seasoned actors shedding their costumes, ready to play new characters in the regeneration drama. Within 1 to 2 weeks, a blastoma forms at the injury site. Think of it as a blueprint for the new arm, several millimeters in diameter, depending on the size of the wound. It's like a miniature construction site popping up overnight, ready to rebuild what's been lost. Guided by the molecular maestros, WNT, Notch, and BMP proteins, the cells in the blastoma begin to differentiate and grow. It's like a symphony orchestra, with each molecule ensuring the cells know their part. The new arm forms with all the necessary structures, including skeletal elements, muscles, and nervous tissue. This process can take several months, depending on the size of the lost arm. It's akin to watching a time-lapse video of a skyscraper being built. Slow and steady, but incredibly impressive. Behind the scenes, the WNT signaling pathway is regulating cell proliferation and patterning, ensuring everything is in its right place. The Notch signaling pathway steps in, guiding cell differentiation and tissue formation, while BMP proteins handle skeletal formation and patterning. These molecules are like the backstage crew at a Broadway show. You might not see them, but without them, the performance wouldn't go on. So next time you think you're having a rough day, just remember the starfish. Losing an arm is merely an inconvenience, not a tragedy. They show us that with a little patience and a lot of biological brilliance, you can bounce back from almost anything. First, let's talk about molting. Spiders shed their exoskeletons multiple times throughout their lives, like actors changing costumes between scenes. Young spiders molt more frequently, growing into their roles with each new exoskeleton. Before the big molt, our arachnid friend preps by hoarding energy and resources, kind of like an athlete carb loading before a marathon. Now, when a spider loses a leg, it doesn't sit around moping. Instead, it gets busy with some serious cellular choreography. Within a few days to weeks, a blastoma forms at the site of the lost leg. Picture a flash mob of de-differentiated cells, all ready to dance their way into forming new leg structures. These cells are the true shapeshifters, capable of becoming whatever the spider needs. Guided by the molecular maestros, ecdysteroids, and other regulatory proteins, these cells start differentiating and growing. It's like a well-rehearsed orchestra, with each molecule ensuring the cells hit their notes perfectly. The new leg starts to form inside the old exoskeleton, waiting for the next molt to make its grand entrance. This process can take several molting cycles, each lasting several weeks to months. It's like watching a masterpiece unfold in slow motion. Now let's not forget the backstage crew. Ecdysteroids are the hormones that call the shots, regulating the molting and coordinating the regeneration. Then there are the regulatory proteins, the unsung heroes guiding the blastoma cells to become the leg structures. Without these, the show simply wouldn't go on. So next time you find yourself in a sticky situation, remember the spider. It loses a leg, but never loses hope. With a bit of time and a lot of biological brilliance, it spins a new leg out of thin air, teaching us all a lesson in resilience and regeneration. Now, isn't that something to marvel at? The sea cucumber. When faced with danger, these clever creatures can expel their internal organs through the mouth or anus, leaving potential predators both confused and hungry. It's like throwing your wallet at a mugger and running the other way, but on a whole other level. This daring escape act can happen multiple times throughout their lives, proving that sometimes the best defense is a good, albeit messy, offense. Once the organs are out, it's time for some rapid repairs. Within days, new epidermal tissue covers the wound, like a team of speedy contractors throwing up a barrier to keep out the riffraff. Epidermal cells rush to the scene, forming a protective layer that keeps the sea cucumber safe. Now, the real fun begins. Cells from the remaining tissues start to de-differentiate, essentially hitting the rewind button to revert to a more primitive state. It's like watching a group of experienced professionals suddenly decide to go back to college. These cells then proliferate, multiplying faster than rabbits in springtime. Within 1 to 2 weeks, a blastoma forms from these de-differentiated cells, a sort of biological blueprint for the new organs. Guided by a symphony of molecular signals, including TGFB, WNT, and Notch proteins, the blastoma cells start to differentiate and grow. Imagine an orchestra where each molecule plays its part to perfection, guiding the cells to form new internal organs like the digestive tract and respiratory tree. This process can take several weeks to months, but the result is nothing short of miraculous. It's like watching an entire city being rebuilt after a disaster, one cell at a time. Behind this amazing feat are the unsung heroes, the molecules and genes pulling the strings. TGFB regulates cell proliferation and differentiation, ensuring everything grows just right. The WNT and Notch signaling pathways coordinate cell behavior and tissue patterning, making sure every cell knows where to go and what to do. These molecular maestros ensure that the regeneration process is as smooth as a jazz solo on a warm summer night. So next time you think your day is tough, just remember the sea cucumber. It can lose its guts and grow them back, showing us all that sometimes the best way to handle life's challenges is to start fresh. In the grand symphony of nature, the sea cucumber plays a tune of resilience and regeneration that leaves us all in awe.